Hi, welcome to Arkintel. Homes in Toronto now cost more than the castles in Europe. This isn't hyperbole, it's fact. A small detached house in Toronto's suburbs can sell for over $1 million, while historic estates in France or Scotland go for less. Canada's housing market has become a paradox. A nation built on stability now sits on one of the most inflated real estate systems in the developed world. Families with steady jobs can't buy, renters are suffocating under record prices, and an entire generation is losing faith that home ownership will ever be possible. So, how did one of the richest, safest countries on earth create a system this distorted? And more importantly, can it survive what's coming next? By the end of 2024, the signs of strain were everywhere. In December, home sales in the Greater Toronto Area plunged 18.7% from the previous month, falling to just over 5,300 units. Yet, prices barely budged. The average home still sold for around 1.09 million Canadian dollars. For all of 2024, sales rose slightly from the year before, but the average price stayed near 1.12 million Canadian dollars. Across the country, the national average home price is about 687,300 Canadian dollars. In other words, the market has cooled, but not corrected. Prices remain far out of reach for most Canadians. Since 1981, real home prices in Canada have climbed about 160% faster than wages. Canada's price-to-income ratio now ranks among the worst in the developed world, worse than US, Japan, or Germany. And while income stagnated, debt soared. Add record immigration, and the imbalance widened. Demand stayed relentless, supply stayed frozen, and affordability collapsed. Now, with interest rates elevated and mortgages resetting, cracks are beginning to show. Canada's housing agency expects prices to fall roughly 2% nationally in 2025. Small on paper, but dangerous for a country where household debt has climbed to some of the highest levels in the world. For years, Canadians believed housing could only go up. That belief built an economy, and now it may be very well that breaks it. When the world talks about unaffordable housing, Canada is always in the conversation. Vancouver, Toronto, all rank among the least affordable cities on earth, beside Hong Kong, Sydney, and San Jose. In Vancouver, the median home costs 14 times the median household income. Economists consider 5 the upper limit of affordability. But what makes Canada's situation uniquely fragile isn't just price, it's exposure. Most Canadian mortgages reset every 5 years or less. Millions of homeowners who locked in during the ultra-low rate years of 2020 and 2021 will soon face renewals at double or triple their previous payments. For many, that's an extra $1,000 or more every month. At the same time, rents are exploding. According to CMHC, average advertised rents jumped about 8% year over year, the fastest increase ever recorded. In cities like Toronto, a one-bedroom apartment now averages around $2,600 a month. Families are being pushed out of urban centers, students are sharing bedrooms, and young professionals are giving up on cities altogether. The crisis now cuts across generations. Older homeowners can downsize because smaller properties aren't cheaper. Younger Canadians can't buy, and increasingly, they can't even rent. Middle-income families, once the backbone of the market, are disappearing from it entirely. So, is this the world's worst housing bubble? Maybe not by absolute numbers, but by the scale of debt, speculation, and policy failure combined, it's one of the most dangerous. Because if it breaks, it won't just hit investors, it could pull the entire economy down with it. The solution isn't impossible, but it requires choices Canada has avoided for decades. First, zoning reform. Cities must stop protecting single-family exclusivity and open land for duplexes, triplexes, and mid-rise buildings. The missing middle must be built, and built fast. Faster permitting, better infrastructure, and fewer local vetoes are the start. Second, tax the speculation, not the shelter. Homes that sit empty, properties flipped for profit, and portfolios of investment units should all face higher taxes. Meanwhile, first-time buyers should get relief. Third, demand management. Mortgage stress tests should remain strict, and large corporate landlords should face tighter rules to prevent bulk buying that drives up rents. Renting needs to be treated as a stable, long-term choice, not a penalty for being priced out. Fourth, public investment. For decades, Canada relied on the private market to fix the housing crisis, and the private market failed. Governments need to return to building through public housing, non-profit developments, and public-private partnerships. Toronto's plan to add thousands of affordable homes is a start, but the scale must be national. Finally, coordination. Housing policy in Canada is fragmented between Ottawa, the provinces, and municipalities. Without a unified strategy aligned with immigration targets, infrastructure budgets, and labor capacity, every fix will be too small, too slow, and too late. For decades, Canada's housing boom was a source of pride, a sign of prosperity. But it also became a trap. It inflated wealth on paper while draining the hope of those trying to enter the market. It built assets, not stability. And now the consequences are everywhere. In rising rent burdens, shrinking family sizes, delayed marriages, and an economy increasingly dependent on housing to keep GDP afloat. When the price of shelter dictates the fate of an entire generation, it stops being a market and becomes a measure of national dysfunction. Now, the illusion is fading. If reforms come fast, if supply increases, taxes are rebalanced, and speculation is curbed, the bubble can deflate gradually. But if Canada stays the course, the correction will be brutal. Defaults, falling prices, and an economy tied too closely to real estate to absorb the shock. Because when an entire generation stops believing that hard work will ever buy them a home, something far deeper breaks: faith in the very system that promised them a fair chance. This isn't just a housing story. It's a test of what kind of nation Canada wants to be. For years, governments treated rising prices as success. Banks encouraged more debt, and investors turned homes into chips on a table. But now, the illusion is collapsing, and what comes next depends on the choices made today. If Canada chooses reform, if it rebuilds zoning, invests in housing people can actually live in, and remembers that homes are a public good, not just a private gain, it might still turn this crisis into a reset. Because homes were never meant to be trophies. They were meant to be shelter, the ground beneath our feet. And the real question now is whether Canada can remember that before the bubble bursts. If you found this video insightful, make sure to check out Is America Sleepwalking into a Recession? In this video, we break down the warning signs flashing across the US economy, from an inverted yield curve and housing slowdown to record consumer debt and stagnant wages, and ask whether America is already sliding into a quiet recession. Click the video to watch now.